The original Sword Art Online was entertaining, but it skipped a lot and just left a lot to be desired. So to fix this, the author went back and rewrote the entire Aincrad story arc literally floor by floor. My videos are going to summarize each of those volumes, and we're beginning directly after episode 2. This is also right after the first Progressive movie, though it changed quite a bit, like adding an entire character that's not meant to be there. Kirito just scored the last attack bonus on the first floor boss, and proclaimed himself to be a cheating beta tester. He alone proceeds into the second floor, while everybody else heads back to town in order to resupply. He's met by an open savanna that's enclosed by tall mountains. He goes straight to the main town, hesitates for a moment before activating the teleporter and immediately fleeing into a nearby building. Many people flood the streets, but his eyes are drawn to Argo the Rat, who's being chased by 2 players posing as ninjas. Now Argo only appeared once in the original anime, but in the rewrite she was introduced on the very first floor. Her and Kirito have a semi-close relationship, primarily due to them both being beta testers. She spends her days buying and selling information, and is hands down one of the best characters in this series. Kirito sprints along the rooftop following Argo, who leaves town and is eventually cornered. These players are seeking information on a hidden extra skill, but for some reason she refuses to tell them. The ninjas grow angry, so Kirito drops between them, saying they need to turn around. They're not falling for that trick, which results in them being body slammed by a bowl. Argo then hugs him from behind, and Kirito uses this opportunity to ask about the hidden extra skill. She leads the way through a mountain passage where they find a small shed containing a quest-giving NPC. Kirito talks to the man, noticing that he's wearing whiskers just like Argo. This quest is to smash a boulder using only your bare hands, which Kirito immediately tries to back out of. But before he can, the master paints whiskers on his face, which will only be removed upon completion of this quest. Argo bursts out laughing, as Kirito realizes her whiskers began with her being unable to beat this quest during the beta. It takes him 3 full days, but Kirito finally learns the martial arts skill, which he did actually use once in the anime. Now Kirito is walking through Urbis, the main town of the second floor. He's wearing a flawless disguise as he overhears an argument about a weapon upgrade, which failed 4 times in a row. Asuna then arrives, and Kirito explains that each weapon has a limited number of upgrade attempts. Upon a failed attempt, the weapon will actually lose a level, and after 8 attempts, it becomes a dead weapon which can no longer be changed. This player blacksmith apologizes for the bad luck, even though it was all just a matter of chance. Kirito then tries to walk away so that she's not seen with the beater, but Asuna could care less what other people think. She's come here today to try and upgrade her weapon, which has an 80% chance of success, but Kirito tells her she needs to raise those odds. Due to this, she forces Kirito to help her collect the proper materials. While traveling, Asuna tells Kirito his disguise is trash, but she also warns him not to buy the same cape as her. He's busy thinking about this romantic view, just as she offers up a bet. They'll have a competition to see who can slay the most wasps, and the loser must buy the other person dessert. Kirito just took down his 22nd, but Asuna's count is currently 25. He knows that her accuracy and ability to score critical hits is leagues above his own, so he resorts to implementing his brand new martial arts skill. After all is said and done, Kirito successfully lost by a single kill, and Asuna can't wait to try an expensive cake. Now back in town, Kirito is surprised to see so many people, but Asuna states this is normal. She forces him to leave off his disguise as they make their way to a small restaurant. Due to the expensive price, Kirito only ordered 1 slice of cake, though Asuna graciously allows him to have a few bites. Surprisingly, this cake gives a temporary boost to luck, and Kirito thinks about using it to ask Asuna out on a date. Of course, the luck bonus wouldn't apply here, but you know, it might help with weapon upgrading. The blacksmith asks if she'd like a repair, or if she'd rather buy a new weapon. With the additional materials, Asuna hands over her wind fleuret, asking for an upgrade which should now have a 95% chance of success. Naja, however, looks visibly uneasy as he takes the blade, so Asuna grabs hold of Kirito's finger, with the hope that their luck bonuses may stack together. The blacksmith does his thing and raises his hammer above his head, causing all of Kirito's hairs to stand on end. After the final hit, Asuna's sword crumbles to dust. Naja apologizes profusely, followed by Kirito demanding an explanation. It's apparently a rare but new feature, and without any other ideas, Kirito has to accept this explanation. Naja does offer to give Asuna a free low-tier rapier, but she declines. Kirito then leads the dejected Asuna away, trying his best to comfort her. He points out that she would have outleveled the wind fleuret soon enough, and you learn she was planning to use the same weapon forever. Kirito explains the best way to keep your weapon's soul is to melt it down and use it as the base for your next blade. Asuna cheers up a bit upon hearing this, and asks him for help with buying a new sword tomorrow. Though instead of going to sleep, Kirito follows Naja to a little-known bar. He cracks open the door just enough to hear 5 people cheer. Naja, however, doesn't want to do this anymore, but the leader states they still need more money if they want to become the top players. The leader then notices the open door and dashes outside, but Kirito's stealth is just high enough to stay hidden. He's now certain that Asuna was scammed and begins thinking hard about how it was done. Coming to a realization, he quickly checks the time before sprinting away. With a knock, he bursts into Asuna's room, immediately telling her to open the menu. She knows she locked the door, but Kirito says the default settings don't keep out party members. Without delay, he physically guides her hand through a series of convoluted menus, until finally her entire inventory spawns on the ground. Kirito is confused why she needs so many pair of underwear, but begins tossing them aside. Asuna's anger quickly turns to shock, as Kirito finds her precious sword at the very bottom of the pile. Kirito explains what happened by handing her his anneal blade. You see, it disappears from his inventory, even though it's still under his possession. Assuming you don't equip another item in its slot, you get 1 full hour before the item is lost. So Asuna's sword never actually broke, and she now wants to go catch the criminal in the act. However, Kirito thinks Naja will be wary of them, and they both agree that he didn't seem like a bad person. Kirito then mentions that they need to get back to the front line, since Kaibao and Lind are preparing to battle the field boss tomorrow. Asuna reveals she's not participating, because they were really bossy with who would get what rewards. A field boss is Aincrad's version of a mini-boss, and our duo watches the battle from a distance. There's a total of 15 people participating, however Lind and Kaibao's groups have very poor teamwork. Kirito then notices the people from the bar, which Asuna explains to be a party known as the Legend Braves. They each assume the name of a mythical hero, and 20 minutes in, they watch as 2 players are sent flying. Orlando and Beowulf switch in with their top tier gear, quickly and easily finishing off the boss. Kirito is momentarily stunned by Asuna's beauty, before revealing that the Legend Braves are working with Naja. She realizes they've earned their gear through scams, and she beelines straight to confront them. Kirito stops her, saying they have no proof, and that he doesn't want her to get backlash for partying with him. Asuna scolds him for the second part, but agrees now is not the time to do anything. The exhausted raid party then returns to Urbis to resupply, all while Kirito and Asuna sneak ahead as the first players to the new area. They're now 2 hours deep into this floor's labyrinth, and Asuna is still unable to calmly deal with these minotaurs. Asuna then declares these nearly naked mobs to be sexual harassment, which makes Kirito think twice about equipping the leather strap armor he just acquired. He decides it'd be best to give it to a certain helpful tank, followed by them exiting the dungeon with their inventories full of loot. There is, however, a trail of empty treasure chests in their wake, so they assume the raid party is probably pissed off right about now. Inside the nearest village, they notice that Naja has set up shop again, almost as if nothing even happened. Asuna can't believe his audacity, though Kirito suspects he's being used. They discuss whether or not Kirito will be allowed to participate in the next raid, and you learn that Kaibao has begun calling his group the Aincrad Liberation Squad. Together, they go to meet up with Argo, who questions why these 2 solo players would be working together. They reminisce about the beta, followed by Kirito handing over his labyrinth map data for completely free. He then asks for info on the Legend Braves, however he doesn't want them to know someone is looking. This is strictly against Argo's policy, but she's willing to make a special exception for Keyboy. Asuna then asks if a weapon can break due to a failed upgrade, causing Argo to state this only happens if you attempt to upgrade an already dead weapon. Later that same evening, Kirito and Asuna set up a stakeout, overlooking Naja's store. She bites into dinner, accidentally covering her face in cream, followed by Kirito swearing he thought it was filled with meat. Eventually, Shivada, a player in Lin's party, approaches Naja seeking an upgrade. They watch closely and barely see something flash, followed by the broadsword shattering. They discuss if they should act, but they're worried anything rash could lead to an execution. Asano, however, points out that soon enough the Legend Braves will be too powerful to stop, which for the first time made Kirito realize he can't avoid this situation. Naja then packs up his store, as Kirito tries but fails to replicate the scam, just as Kirito receives a message from Argo. It details how each member of the Legend Braves got their name, which reveals to Kirito exactly how Naja is performing this scam.